I always believed that success defined a man. Growing up, I watched my father work tirelessly, convinced that a man's worth was measured by his achievements. Love? That could wait. My dream of becoming a successful musician wasn't just a goal, it was my entire identity. Sophie, my girlfriend, was kind, supportive, and everything a man could ask for, but I saw relationships as distractions. I was sure that if I didn't focus 100% on my music, I'd lose my chance at greatness. I built a wall around this belief, thinking I was protecting my future. I thought I had it all figured out: sacrifice now, enjoy later. Sophie didn't understand the pressure I felt, or so I convinced myself. I feared mediocrity more than I feared losing her. Deep down, I believed love would only slow me down. Looking back, I can see how wrong I was, but at the time, it felt like the only way forward. Little did I know, the very thing I saw as a distraction would become the key to everything I truly wanted. Music wasn't just a dream for me, it was my escape, my reason to wake up every day. I remember the first time I picked up a guitar. It felt like the strings were an extension of my own soul. I knew from that moment that I wanted to do more than just play. I wanted to change the world with my music. The spotlight, the crowds, the thrill of success, it all called to me. But the reality of the industry hit hard. The late nights, the empty venues, the countless auditions, it was a grind. And no one understood it like Sophie did. She supported me when I was practicing for hours, or when I was late for our dinner dates because I'd gotten lost in the music. But somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that if I didn't make it big, I'd be a failure. The pressure to succeed was crushing. Sophie, though, she had dreams too. She was content with her life, not needing the same kind of recognition I craved. But to me, her contentment felt like complacency. I feared being stuck, being ordinary, and that fear overshadowed everything else. Success felt like the only way to prove to myself, and the world, that I was more than just another guy with a guitar. Breaking up with Sophie felt like I was tearing apart a piece of my own heart. We had been together for years, but somewhere in my mind, I had convinced myself that this was the only way forward. I was at a crossroads: follow my music, or risk losing everything I had dreamed of. Sophie didn't deserve to be in the shadows while I chased a dream. She was too good for that. One evening, after a long rehearsal, I sat down with her. I saw the hurt in her eyes before I even spoke. She knew something was coming. And when I told her that I needed to focus on my career, that she deserved someone who could give her more than just empty promises, I saw the shock in her face. She didn't understand. How could she? It was a decision I thought I'd never regret, but as soon as the words left my mouth, I felt the weight of it. Sophie tried to fight it, of course. She didn't want to let go. She loved me deeply, and I loved her. Still, I thought I had to do this. I thought I was making the right call for both of us. I left that night believing that time would prove me right, that one day Sophie would understand. But the truth? I wasn't ready for the emptiness that followed. I thought it was the price of ambition, but now, I see it was the price of my own misguided belief. After the breakup, I threw myself into my music with a single-minded obsession. The city became my stage, but the applause I craved was always just out of reach. I played small venues, mostly empty rooms, and sometimes, I wondered if anyone was even listening. Yet I couldn't stop. Every note I played was a step closer to that elusive dream of being someone, of proving to myself that I wasn't just wasting my life. I thought success would fill the hole Sophie left behind, but it didn't. It only made it bigger. The nights were the hardest. No more late-night talks, no more laughter, no more feeling like I had someone by my side. I convinced myself that the loneliness was temporary, that once I made it, everything would fall into place. But each rejection, each night spent alone in my tiny apartment, chipped away at my confidence. I missed Sophie's quiet belief in me. The way she would reassure me after a bad set, telling me that the world needed to hear what I had to offer. She always made me feel like I wasn't just chasing a dream for myself, but for us. Now I had no one to remind me why I started this journey in the first place. The fear of failure consumed me. I thought, what if I never make it? What if this is all just a dream that slips through my fingers? The city was full of people with the same ambition, but I felt more isolated than ever. The music that once felt like my passion now felt like my prison. The grind never stopped. More auditions, more rehearsals, more sacrifices. Yet I was stuck in the same cycle. I started to question everything. My dreams, my choices, and especially the man I had become. I wasn't the ambitious, confident guy I used to be. I was exhausted and losing faith in my own talent. The walls I had built around myself to protect my dream had become a prison. I began to see glimpses of what I had lost, but it wasn't until a random encounter that the full weight of my choices hit me. It happened at a coffee shop, a place I went to escape the noise, but instead, I found a familiar face, Sophie. She was sitting alone, reading a book, completely unaware of my presence at first. When she looked up, the silence between us spoke volumes. There she was, looking just as beautiful as I remembered, but something was different. She was glowing. She wasn't waiting for me anymore. In that moment, I realized how much time I had wasted, chasing something that wasn't meant to be a solo journey. Sophie had moved on, not just from me, but from the idea that she needed me to be whole. And there I was, still holding on to a dream that wasn't mine to chase alone. I wanted to approach her, to say something, to apologize. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I had been living in a fantasy. I had convinced myself that success would fix everything, but in reality, it was the relationships I had let go of that truly mattered. I had sacrificed love for a dream, but now, I saw clearly, the dream wasn't worth it if I had to live it without anyone by my side. Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. After that chance meeting with Sophie, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had missed something. There I was, still chasing this elusive dream, but a part of me longed for the simplicity and warmth of what I once had with her. The realization hit me hard. Sophie had moved on. She was no longer the girl who waited for me to figure out my path. She had taken control of her own life, and she was thriving. But it didn't end there. As the weeks passed, I kept seeing her, always from a distance, always looking happier than before. She was thriving in a way that I hadn't expected, and it was painful to watch. I thought I had given her the space to grow, but in reality, I had locked myself in a cage of my own making. Sophie was living proof of something I didn't know I needed, that love wasn't a sacrifice. It was about balance, about sharing the load. Then, one evening, I attended a friend's gathering. I wasn't even sure why I went. I had been avoiding social events, not wanting to face anyone who might remind me of my failure. But there I was, standing in the corner with a drink in hand, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. I turned, almost instinctively, and there she was, Rachel. I had met her briefly at one of Sophie's gatherings years ago, but we never really spoke. But now, something was different. She was no longer the quiet, reserved woman I remembered. She was confident, magnetic, and had an energy that drew people in. We started talking, and before I knew it, hours had passed. It felt like we were picking up where we'd left off all those years ago. As though life had led us back together for a reason. She wasn't trying to fill the void Sophie had left. She was simply herself, and it was refreshing. Rachel wasn't asking me to change or sacrifice my dreams for her. She saw the ambition in me but didn't need it to define who I was. We talked about everything, our passions, our goals, our past mistakes, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to prove myself. She understood that I wasn't perfect, but she believed in my potential. It wasn't about saving me, it was about believing in the man I could become. As the night went on, I couldn't help but wonder if this was the universe giving me a second chance, not just at love, but at understanding what really mattered. Maybe it wasn't about choosing between love and success, but about finding a way to have both. Maybe I had been looking at it all wrong. Over the next few weeks, I found myself thinking a lot about Rachel. The more I reflected, the clearer it became that something had shifted in me. I wasn't just chasing a dream anymore, I was learning to build a life, one that was more than just about success or ambition. I'd spent so much of my time trying to prove my worth through accomplishments that I hadn't realized the value of balance. Rachel wasn't asking me to abandon my passion. She was showing me that I could have both, a life where love and career didn't compete, but complemented each other. We started spending more time together, and I began to see things through her eyes. She didn't expect me to drop everything for her. Nor did she want to hold me back. Instead, she wanted to support me in achieving my goals, while also encouraging me to take the time to appreciate the moments that truly mattered. Our conversations weren't just about dreams, they were about the small things, shared laughter, deep talks, even moments of silence that didn't need to be filled with words. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to choose. I didn't have to sacrifice the person I was or the dream I had worked so hard for. I could still strive for success, but with a newfound understanding of what really made life worth living: connection, support, and love. I was no longer trying to prove anything. I had found someone who accepted me as I was, someone who gave me the space to grow, while also being there when I needed them most. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this was what I had been missing all along: the ability to embrace both ambition and love without sacrificing either. Sophie had always been my support, but I had been blind to her own needs and desires. Rachel, however, had shown me the importance of mutual respect, of understanding that love wasn't about ownership or obligation, but about partnership. The journey hadn't been easy. There were nights when I still found myself questioning my decisions, wondering if I was on the right path. But every time I looked into Rachel's eyes, I was reminded that love, at its core, was about trust and belief in each other's potential. She was my partner, my equal, and in many ways she was the person who helped me reconnect with the most important parts of myself, the parts one had almost forgotten in the pursuit of success. As time passed, the pieces of my life began to fit together. I was becoming the man I wanted to be, not just the musician I had always dreamt of, but someone who knew the value of balance. I didn't have to chase my dreams alone. I could do it with someone by my side who believed in me, who encouraged me to push forward, but who also reminded me of what I had to lose if I didn't make time for the things that mattered most. As the months passed, something inside me shifted. I had come so far on my own, fighting for my dreams, but the loneliness was always just beneath the surface. There were moments when I thought I could handle it all by myself, but then, when I'd look at Rachel, I realized how much richer life could be with her by my side. We were no longer just two people caught up in the current of life, we were partners, building something together, something I hadn't realized I needed until I found it. Rachel never pushed me to make any decisions. She didn't demand that I choose between my dreams and her. What she did was make it clear that she was in this for the long haul, that she was ready to support me in whatever path I chose, whether that meant long nights working on music or quieter moments spent reflecting on life. Her presence in my life didn't feel like a weight or a distraction from my goals. It felt like the missing piece, the piece I had been searching for all along. But it wasn't just her presence that made a difference. It was her belief in me, her trust that I could achieve what I set out to do, but her reminder that success wasn't just about fame or money. It was about fulfillment, about doing what you loved with someone who loved you back. In Rachel, I saw a future. A future that wasn't defined by success alone, but by shared experiences, love, and a partnership that made both of us better. For so long, I thought that chasing my dream meant doing it alone. I thought love would be a distraction, that the two couldn't coexist. But here I was, with Rachel, someone who believed in me not just for what I could accomplish, but for who I was. And I realized that I didn't have to make a choice anymore. I didn't have to give up my dreams to have a life with her. I could have both, as long as I was willing to prioritize the things that truly mattered. The decision wasn't easy. There was still part of me that felt that old drive to prove myself, to chase that dream without distractions. But every time I saw Rachel's unwavering support, her quiet understanding, it became clearer. Love wasn't a distraction, it was the foundation of everything I wanted to build. Without it, success would feel empty. With her by my side, I could chase my dreams and still have a life that felt complete. The realization hit me. I didn't want to live a life where I had to choose between love and success. I wanted both, and with Rachel, I finally understood that I didn't have to settle for one or the other. We could build a future together, one where both of us thrived, where both our dreams were supported, where we were partners in every sense of the word. The more time I spent with Rachel, the more I realized that I had found something I had never truly understood until now: balance. I wasn't just succeeding in my career, I was succeeding in life. And it wasn't about being perfect, or having everything together all at once. It was about learning how to integrate the things that mattered most: my passion, my dreams, and most importantly, the person I loved. It wasn't easy, but I had learned to embrace the fact that life is not a straight path. There are twists, turns, and moments where you have to step back and recalibrate. As I stood there, looking at the life we were beginning to build together, I couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. We had both come a long way, me, chasing a dream, and her, chasing her own goals, and somewhere along the way, we had crossed paths. And now we were forging ahead, side by side. The future didn't feel uncertain anymore. It felt like a shared adventure, one that I wasn't facing alone. We had both made mistakes, but instead of letting them define us, we had learned from them. We had found a way to make our dreams align, to prioritize each other while still staying true to our individual paths. Rachel had taught me that love wasn't about making compromises that left you feeling hollow. It was about finding someone who lifted you up, who pushed you to be better, but also accepted you for who you were. There were no ultimatums, no sacrifices that had to be made. Just a shared vision of what we could create together. That was the moment I realized that the lesson I had learned was not just about love, it was about trust. Trust in myself, trust in Rachel, and trust in the universe to lead me where I needed to go. I had spent so long running away from the idea of relying on someone, thinking that I could do it all myself. But now I saw that true strength lies in knowing when to lean on others, when to let go of the fear of vulnerability and embrace the power of partnership. As we began planning our future together, I found myself excited for the journey ahead. No longer was I chasing success at the cost of everything else. I was building something that mattered, something real, something lasting. And it wasn't just about the music, or the fame, or the accolades. It was about a life filled with love, balance, and shared goals. For the first time, I felt complete. Rachel wasn't just the woman who showed me that I didn't have to sacrifice my dreams for love. She was the woman who showed me that love could be the thing that makes those dreams even more meaningful. Together, we were starting something new, a new chapter, a new beginning. And this time, it wasn't just about me. It was about us.